Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to another fun-filled holiday edition of the CoCo Show. It's our quirky look at the wacky, nutty, fun-loving TRS-80 Color Computer that you may have had in the early 80s. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo Aaron, joined by everyone's favorite ding-dong. It's the Brent. What's with the hair, the Brent?
What? You don't like my new styles?
Listen, I learned a long time ago, don't make fun of anyone's hair, no matter how dumb it is, because it's better than what I got, which is jack squat. So it looks good on you.
Thank you.
It doesn't. So, I always enjoy, we do a lot of holiday shows every year, but I always enjoy the CoCo Show the most. And it's because this is the one computer out of all the ones we cover that I have an intimate holiday connection with from back in the day. This is a computer I had during my formative years in the early 80s, and it was always a pleasure to treat to get CoCo hardware, CoCo peripherals, and play games. And a lot of my favorite, most fun Christmas memories are me sitting down and playing CoCo games or hooking up that disk drive for the first time or loading in some tapes or whatever. And it's always glorious to come back to because it reminds me of the old family holidays we used to have. Do you have any fond memories? It doesn't have to be CoCo related. When you were a kid, when you look back on our trips to Mama's house and whatnot, like what are the fond memories you have and what are the favorite things you ever received on Christmas?
Opening the package of my Game Boy the year I got it for Christmas and playing it before Christmas and then wrapping it back up.
Now, so you cheated.
Yeah.
Did anyone find out?
Do I know they didn't know? No, but they at least never called me out on it.
So you got your Game Boy for Christmas, your original Game Boy. Do you have any idea around what year that was?
Oh God, it was either
It'd be like early 90s.
Yeah, it was either the year it released or the year after it released.
How old were you in, say, 1990?
I would have been, I graduated in 96. I started high school in 92, so that would put me in 7th grade, would make me about 13.
Perfect. That's the perfect. That's about the same way I am with the CoCo. Yeah. It's funny you should bring up the Game Boy because I was on This Week in Retro this past week and we talked about some old hardware stuff. When I was talking about the first time I ever saw an emulator, and the earliest memory I ever have of seeing someone talking about emulating something, I was on a BBS out of Dunbar. I think it was called 21st Century Connection or something like that. And someone on there had uploaded a Game Boy emulator. And this would have been the early to mid 90s. Now I couldn't find anybody talking about an emulator being out that early for the Game Boy, but I remember thinking to myself, what's an emulator? I didn't know what it was. And I never really tried it because I didn't know what it was, but eventually I was like, wait a minute, you can play Game Boy games at the house? Holy smokes, the Game Boy's quite a game. I was a big fan of the Game Boy. I never had one myself. When you played games on it, what were your favorite ones?
Oh, Tetris. Tetris was by far my favorite.
I love the original Mario Land. Was that what it was?
It was not that great.
I thought it was good.
For me, the games I had for it were Super Mario Brothers, a wrestling game, and Monopoly. And if I still have Monopoly today, it's worth tons of cash. I don't have it.
That Monopoly was pretty good.
No, it was slow and horrible.
You
could easily trick the computer into trading properties at horrible rates.
I used to play Monopoly on the CoCo. There was a game, I believe it was called Moneyopoly. Someone in the chat might better help me out, but it was actually a pretty solid Monopoly game for the CoCo. You wouldn't think about the CoCo being... Of course, CoCo also had a battleship type game, which me and Bo covered a long time ago. That was neat. And one of the things that was cool about it was it would flip the relay for the tape drive. It would flip the internal relay to sound like someone using like Morse code in the entrance. It was really
That's
cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Moneyopoly. Curtis happens to be the chat. Moneyopoly from Tom Mix. A lot of fun. So I get warm and fuzzy when we're talking about the CoCo around Christmas. And I talked to the people in the game selection committee. I said, listen, the other shows we did this year weren't the least bit Christmassy. They were not. I was like, let's try to hone something in. And they came up with a couple good choices here that we're going to talk about. We're going to do a double dip this week. We're going to get right into it.
Oh, no, we're not.
We're not?
No.
Why not?
Because I have a topic to
I'm
go
sorry.
along with what we're playing.
Okay, go ahead. What's your topic?
Well, today we're going to look at skiing
right.
and Horace Goes Skiing.
Yeah, 2 skiing games.
Aaron, have you ever been skiing?
No. Topic over.
No, because I have been skiing.
You went skiing?
Actual factual on the slope skiing.
Okay,
yes.
well, how'd it go?
Horribly.
How heavy were you when you skied?
This would have been mid-college, so I wasn't as big as I am now, but I certainly wasn't small.
Right.
And we set up a trip, and it was like 10 of us went skiing. And I had never been skiing before. And they said, well, listen, just come, you can do the tubes if nothing else.
This was your frat friends or something that did this?
It was a mix. It was a mix. And because you can go down the inner tubes, not on the actual slopes, but they have areas
the doofus
where
journey.
You can get in the tube and go down the hill and then just hold onto a chain. It'll pull you back up the hill.
Oh, nice.
It's the laziest thing I've ever been on.
I'm turning the corner.
But I wanted to go actual skiing.
Okay.
And I was like, well, let me back up. I didn't want to go actually skiing, but everyone else wanted me to go actually skiing, so I went skiing.
Yeah. Watch the dummy ski.
And a ton of us had never skied before, so we all did their little skiing course, like learn to ski in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And our instructor cared for us about as little as you can for something. And he was like, all right, if you want to stop, pull your knees in. If you need to go faster, it was just like
the minimal,
right?
The minimal instruction.
And he was like, okay, everyone, walk to the top of this bunny hill. No one could walk in skis, so literally that took like 30 minutes because it was us. We're college age, all the way down to these little like 5 and 6 year olds.
Yeah.
No one could walk up to the top of this bunny hill. But like 30 minutes later, with parents picking their kids up, and the bunny hill's literally, it's just like, whee.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So we all get on the bunny hill. That's fine. And the reason why it's fine is you don't have to turn, and you just go straight.
Yeah.
And then there's enough blank area after that, you just eventually stop. So he's like, okay, you guys now know how to ski. I'll take you over to the first lift.
So that was the dummy course.
Well, it was teaching you how to ski.
Right.
And then when he takes you to the first ski lift, and you go down the first actual downhill thing, this is not a bunny hill. This thing actually, you go down and I remember this vividly, it's been over 20 years. You go down a hill, and then it forks. And if you do not fork with it forking, you die.
You're forked.
Because, it forks because of a forest.
Yeah.
And then it goes one path goes on the hillside, the other path cuts it inside, and then they both form back down. You go down a few more hills.
So they just didn't cut that part of the forest, just to screw people.
Right, well, it's to make the skiing more fun.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm at the front of the lift. So I go down, I'm one of the first to actually go down the thing. And I get on this hill, and I'm picking up speed because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I get to the point where if you don't turn, you're going to die. And my options were die,
Yeah.
Turn, or fall.
Yeah.
And I told myself, I'm not going to fall. Because if I fall...
Too proud.
I would... No.
Oh.
Wrong. If I fall, I'm never getting up.
Oh, I see.
Because I could not get up on skis.
So that was sort of a flash of things to come in your life.
So I, with just will and determination, I am able to turn enough to get around this hill, and I don't know what's going on, but I turn towards the cliff side.
Okay.
So now I've made my turn about 30 degrees, 45 degrees, whatever, and now I'm skiing faster than I've ever skied before towards a cliff.
Right.
And I'm like, it's over. So I'm going to die.
You narrowed your choices at that point to fall down or die.
So if I don't turn left and get back down to the straight part of the hill, it's over.
How hard can it be to turn on skis? Don't you just sort of like pivot your body?
You
like,
have to step.
Look what I'm doing here, see?
No,
like that.
That's a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You have to use your bottom part.
You have to actually, for me, what I remember doing was stepping, because the corners, you can just lean left and right and do little turns.
Yeah.
But these were big turns. You had to step and angle the skis so you go. So now I'm to the point where, again, turn, fall, or die. And this is the beginner slope. I'm like, this is horrible.
Why would they put that near a cliff?
I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out. I just remember kind of closing my eyes, and I'm trying to step because I've already got all my momentum going to the left, and now I've got to get all my momentum going to the right. And I can't do it, and I hit somebody.
Yeah. Good.
Which it stops me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going like 100 miles
Were
an hour.
they mad?
They were just as pathetic as I was.
Oh, yeah.
So
you should have blamed them.
So you could easily say that they hit me.
But they didn't really.
Oh,
You hit them.
I remember
You
hitting
careened.
them.
I hope they were a very big person. Otherwise, they're dead now.
They weren't. It was a kid.
So you mashed a child. That's dandy, Brent.
So, but when I fall, when I hit them, it's not like I just plowed them over like a snowplow.
Yeah.
I'm turning. I'm struggling to turn to the right.
Yeah.
And he's coming the other way. So we just kind of mash against each other and we both fall.
So on the other side of that little woods area.
Right.
See, that seems to be another flaw in their planning. The two people that can't see each other riding up in the same lane.
Well, no, he was up ahead of me. I was just going much, much faster than he was. I think he had just fallen, but I'm not sure. So since I didn't fall like all the way on my side, I've struggled back up, and I get going again, and I get to the bottom of the course.
What about the kid?
Oh, I don't know.
The kid is buried under a foot of snow. So that kid's dead.
We didn't talk. I just steadied myself and kept going.
Very good, the Brent.
So
this is a good cross section of the Brent right here. You're hearing it.
So here's the unfortunate. I'm going
Here's
right.
the unfortunate part.
Oh yes.
You ran over a child.
Because I'm getting down to the bottom. Now it's just straight shot. You get little bunny hills going down all the way, but it's a good elevation. So I'm going, and I realize I don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
And the hill ends at the resort, the skis.
There's no like
resort.
wall or anything of rubber.
Well, no.
Like on TV, there's usually like a gimmick in the bottom. They kind of careen. No,
not for this.
So this
slope.
goes to the stairs that go into the ski lodge.
Pretty well. No, what's funny is the stairs go down.
I see.
And then
who designed this ski lodge?
Well,
it's the Rick Dangerous guy. He's like, listen, we're gonna make a ski lodge of these suckers.
So I'm scared. Now my only option is fall or hit resort. Yeah. And that's when it makes falling a much more tangible thing.
Did you just sprawl out, just take a header?
No, I turned 90 degrees. Like cool skiers will turn 90 degrees and they'll throw snow up.
Yeah.
I turned 90 degrees, my skis caught, and I fell over. Destroyed my knee.
Oh no.
Destroyed my knee.
Like how? Like you needed? Like you had to go to the hospital?
I should have, but it swelled to like 3 times its size.
Yeah.
I could not walk. I had to get helped off the slope. And they sat me in a chair.
Yeah.
Inside the resort, and that's where I sat for like 7 hours.
So your friends kept skiing.
Well, yeah. So
what a story.
So what do I think of skiing? It stinks.
Well, good. That's a good preamble to get into our games here. By the way, the first day, the game we're going to look at first happens to be called skiing. Yeah. So, unfortunately for the game, I don't know how well you're going to score this one, the Brent. But yeah, we're going to look at skiing on the CoCo. Now, this right here, the Brent, is one of the early cartridge CoCo games. Everyone's played this one, I think.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's super popular.
So, released in August of 81. It's funny, on Curtis's site, Curtis Boyle, all hail, he has the note that this was programmed in 80 because they actually talked to the guy that did this one. It's credited to a guy named Robert G. Kilgus. He also worked on Color Cubes, Quasar Commander, and the legendary Dino Wars, which we played during the Thanksgiving Marathon with much delight and glee. I've been told we played that wrong. This game will run on anything, pretty much. Color Computer 1, 2, 3, 4, or 16K memory is required. And this is a cartridge game that you can use joystick on. One player. And so this game is one of those games where it does what it says on the tin, in this case, which is you ski down a course. Now, some people have that. You ever heard the term less is more?
Yes.
You ever heard that? Well, this game...
That's about life, man.
In a nutshell, less is more when it comes to CoCo skiing, because CoCo skiing is just skiing. You start out, which is just probably a lot like what you looked at when you start out.
This is it. We're living my experience right now.
Well, the first thing you see is you start on a menu screen that is giving you the options to have different types of control. And this game also allows you to actually make your own course. You can lay down 29 flags and make your course. I remember doing this back in the day. But when you start this game, it starts at the top of a hill, and the whole screen is white, with all you see going down the hill are these orange sort of pegs, like markers to tell you where the course is at.
Tells you where the trail is.
And then flags. And then this game does something you never saw a game hardly do, which was basically it gives you on your mark, get set, and a gunshot goes off.
Get ready, get set.
Get ready, get set, go now. Curtis and the boys over at the CoCo Nation interviewed this guy, and he went into some detail about how he pulled this off. You had a look at this interview.
I did. The way this was done, because these were cartridges, you could get cartridges up to 16K, but
I believe that's what.
But they didn't want to pay for that. They
wanted to, too cheap.
So they had to get. If you're doing speech, man, you got to really chop it up.
Yeah.
But they had a way of recording speech. So the guy doing this goes over to his little recorder thing and says, "Get." And he goes, "Well, the T of that's really not important." So they chopped that bit off.
I thought the middle part was the important part.
They shrank the sound of "get" down to as just basically the G. And they filled it with random noise to get the rest of the word.
Because he made a random noise thing for the CoCo, yeah.
And then ready, he did the same thing. You just get the highlights of the word, and then the rest of it is filled in with random noise. And the reason why they do that is digitized speech, especially back then, takes a crap ton of memory.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do this, and if he said... get ready, get set. He could use the get twice, so he only has to record that once, and then he can refer back to it. So instead of saying go, because go would have pushed the memory too high, it was just a gunshot, which of course is just more random noise.
Yeah, at a certain tone with a certain brevity.
Right.
It's quite remarkable, isn't it, that you could this guy was a double genius.
Yes.
Clearly, and then he did a similar trick at the end of the game when you get past the final goal.
Yeah, when you get to the finish line, the cheer from the crowd is also just more random noise. And they didn't, to get the code from the voice recorder to the product, he actually had someone reading it off to him.
I think it was his wife, I believe.
And he was typing it in.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I urge you to. I'll put a link at the bottom of the screen to this interview. It's quite an interview with this fella.
He's a heck of a guy. Heck of a guy.
And so let's, now that you know.
And the fact that he remembers all this, you know that means that it meant something.
Well, he was sharp. So now to the game proper. Again, this game is minimalistic to say the least. You never actually see your skier. All you see is the course, and then you do see one little tiny dot at the bottom of the screen. And that right there is all you need, really, because this is a full 3D skiing game.
Yes.
I mean, you are looking at I remember when I saw this back in the day, I was very impressed.
Yes.
And I played this thing a ton because it actually does a good job of simulating skiing. And I don't just mean and we'll talk about a Horace Goes Skiing later. We've seen tons of games where it's from up above shot, and they show a guy going down the slopes. This ain't that.
No.
Picture yourself like the Brit here. You're at the top of a slope.
I recommend going to the doctor.
And you're looking down. I mean, if you think about it, what do you see? But you're white. You got that right. It's a snowy, overcast day. And then you see the colored flags on the borders of the thing, and it may be some trees and stuff, but this ain't that kind of slope. And this is exactly what you see in this. You go over hills.
Yes.
You go down slopes. There are turns, and you have to negotiate your way down the course through the flags. There's a time limit, of course, at the top.
Well,
it's
no,
not a limit. It's just a timer.
Yeah, it's a timer to see how long you take to do your track.
And then there's also a thing that tells you how many flags you've missed because you have to go through the sets of flags.
Yeah, it's a crap. What are these called? Why can I not remember what kind of race this is?
Slalom?
Yes.
Wow, I knew that. Even I'm surprised. So you want to. Usually it takes you about a minute and a half if to get down using simple controls.
If you're in slow speed.
Well, if you're in simple controls. But simple controls, it plays a perfectly adequate game of skiing. And the fact that you can make your own course, all that is basically flag placement.
Yes.
Okay, and so you could set flags all straight down in a row, or you can make them insane.
Yeah.
If you want to, if you're a jerk, which is what I used to like to do. I don't know if you remember playing this, but you did play this with me.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And do you remember courses I would make for you?
Vaguely. I remember playing this. The thing that this does, because first of all, it's not 3D, it's scaling.
Right. But it works.
But it's amazing scaling. And what really sells this for me is the going up and down the hills, because you're always going down, but just like on a real ski slope, you'll have a part where you go up a hill a little bit so you can go back down and get your speed back. And it does that so well with minimal graphics that it's a wonder to behold.
Yeah.
The other thing that this does that to me is key, if you go dead in the middle of the flags, awesome. You pass the flags, nothing happens. But just like if you were watching this in like the Olympics or something, if you get close to the poles, to the flags that you're going through, and you would clip them with your shoulder, it actually makes the little noise, like you hit the flag. And that is so immersive for me that it makes the entire difference. Because when you hit that noise, that man, you just barely made that flag, and you're going as fast as possible, and now you've got to struggle to get over the other one. It's the perfect little touch that didn't need to be added, but it needed to be added.
Yeah, it is a nice touch, and it does. His interview explains why those things always sounded so weird to me, because they don't always sound alike. It's like you said, it's a random noise. You get
within a parameter.
Right. It's quite bizarre to hear. So then we can get to the complex mode. So that's simple control. You can also get to your complex mode. Now, complex mode is a whole different kettle of fish, the BRENT, because you can basically use 3 different elements to control the speed going down the hill. One of the things you can absolutely control is your momentum, okay? And your momentum going down the hill, if you hit on normal mode, the red button does nothing. The button on the stick, it doesn't do anything. On complex mode, you can pound this button, and you will actually move at a ridiculously quick pace.
Yeah.
Now the downside of this is you're going to get a lot of missed flag poles, a ton of them.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't.
What do you mean? If you're pounding as fast as you can, you'll finish the course in no time. You'll miss all the flags.
Well, yeah, but then your time's invalid.
It doesn't count. It doesn't count when you do that. So that's one way you can do it. But the one thing you can do is hit it and get a quicker bit of action. But I didn't find this out until the interview. You also get momentum as you go down the course, and as you move back and forth. So it takes all this into account under the hood as you're moving, which is quite astounding to me. Did you know about that when it was going on?
I don't play in the complex. I should.
Yeah.
Because it has that nice, when you go from left to right or right to left, it has that nice slide.
Yeah.
And that feels really good. But I never was great at the complex controls, so I personally stick to simple. So I don't have a lot of comments to say about complex.
Well, I use it quite a bit, and it's cool. But I mean, it gives you, it is advanced. When you get on the slopes with the complex, and once I saw the interview, I went back and played this a bunch more times to kind of get a feel for it. If you don't go, it's because when I was a kid, I would just pound the button as quick as I could. It was funny. You go down, the crowd would cheer, it'd be real quick. But if you actually try to do it, because normal mode, you don't go that quick.
Right.
This, you can really...
I mean, you go, it feels
no,
good.
but it's not like this. You can really rock it down the field. I don't know how much we got into the ending of this either, where you go across the finish line, and there's a horde of people with blue hair.
Looks like elves.
They always look like people wearing those coonskin hats. You know, like you used to see back in the Davy Crockett hats. That's what they reminded me of at the bottom of the hill. You get a bunch of Davy Crockett's there to greet you as you go through, and they're all pantsless, and they're wearing they're totally pantsless. They're wearing green sweaters to go along with their hats, and they cheer. It's a good deal. So what did you think about skiing? What were your thoughts?
I obviously really enjoy this game.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't something you're going to pour, 8 and 10 hours in. This is something you're either going to sit down, play a few times, be incredibly impressed at how smooth and nice it is, and move on, or you're going to sit down with one of your buddies and you're going to compete for times for bragging rights, because that's where this game really shines, is when you're playing with someone else and you have to kind of make up your own rules, because yes, it tells you how many flags you miss, but it doesn't actually penalize you for missing a flag. So, I mean, if you just
your score doesn't count if you miss. I think you miss flags. I don't think you get your like. There's a high score you get at the
right, but I mean, your time is still your time. It doesn't, like, normally it'd be like if you miss a flag, you add X amount of seconds onto your end time. It doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So but if you're playing for that kind of high score and you've got a buddy there to play with, you could play this for hours and not get bored of it, because it's fun. It's innovative. It has great sense of speed once you get going. Especially, I mean, if you want in the modern day to overclock it just a little bit to even make it go a little bit faster, you can.
You don't need to, though, with the complex mode. You don't need to. It'd be insane.
And it feels fun. It feels good. It feels like you're in control. And I really can't say enough good things about it. The speech at the beginning, the get ready, get set,
it was astounding at the time. Yeah,
considering especially how he did it, knowing the kind of the behind the scenes things just makes it more impressive.
Yeah,
but it sounds good. It sounds right. You know, he's saying get ready, get set, and then the gun.
If you think about the year this came out, and I know this sounds silly by today's standards, this was programmed in '80 and came out in '81. Okay, '81. That's early.
Yeah.
And so, how much digitized sound had you heard in '81? I'll tell you how much. Pretty much jack squat.
Did Gorf
wasn't out in '81, I don't think. I mean, it maybe a Berserk would have been, but I mean, you're talking, this is arcade.
Yeah.
So when I heard this and Megabug, when we heard those, we were just like, holy smokes. And it was so impressive. You'd have people come to your house just to hear
it.
As stupid as it sounds.
No, it happened. Absolutely happened.
I love, when it comes to reviews for games, I love digging up the reviews from the Ice People at icepeople.net. They played this, and if you'll indulge, I'm going to read their review. They gave this a B+, and they said this was a surprisingly good effort from Radio Shack. You ski down a slalom course from a first-person perspective, trying to make it through all the gates. You have a choice of simple or complex. The 3D thing isn't a huge deal. Games like Night Driver offer similar perspectives, even on platforms like the Atari 2600. Excuse me, but all the kinds of things about how it's implemented here are very, very impressive. Simple controls do what any kid or novice gamer expects. You push the joystick forward and you move forward, pull it back and you slow down. This is plenty enjoyable on its own, but the expert settings is where things really get impressive. Here you can push the joystick button in a way of moving forward, pushing yourself with your poles, and the slope of the hill becomes a factor in the acceleration as well. Way back then, the physics of skiing could and often were easily done poorly, but here it feels really well captured. This game starts off with actual speech and a realistic track pistol shot. Other than that, sound is basic. It's not that bad, I don't think. And if you have a close call by hitting a flag, it does a pretty good job imitating a smacking sound to pull it off. And the crowd noise is very nice. In short, all the parts are pretty primitive. They represent representative of the typical first generation of CoCo games, but it's one of those rare titles where the sum of them equaled so much more. It's simple concepts like this, executed well, that motivated me to think creatively on programming projects then and now, trying to figure out how I can take simple things I know and make them more interesting. So this obviously had a impact on the guy with Ice People. He gave it a real nice review. I'm going to check our Discord. We did get at least one Discord. Yep, of course, that's where our good buddy L. Curtis Boyle.
I think we got two, didn't we?
We got one on each of the games. So for this one. Oh, no, we did get two. You're right. I almost missed you, Pajako. Should have known. So Pajako types in, if you look at this through today's eyes, you can easily dismiss it as a bit dull and plain looking. But when you consider the hardware this is running on and what it's achieving, which is a fluid first-person 3D skiing game in 1980 on a CoCo, you have to be impressed. Oh, and did I mention it has speech? Yeah. Even with simple blocks and flags on a white background, the developer managed to get hills in, and yeah, with the movement, it all works real well. Even down to the weird elf-like people who are naked from the waist down at the end of the courses. It actually reminded me of Night Driver, and surely it must have been inspired by that. Okay, in today's world, this isn't going to hold your attention for long, but I can imagine having this back in the day, I probably would have played the crud out of it. My only minor gripe is the make a new course option, which is misleading, as I was expecting to be able to build my own track, but it's not a showstopper. To see something that actually shows what can be done in the right hands, I would definitely say check this out for 10 to 20 minutes. As an early 1980 game on the CoCo, it's a 9 out of 10. Yeah. Very nice. And then lastly, chiming in on this one is L. Curtis Boyle. L. Curtis chimes in, one of the first two CoCo games I ever bought, and believe me, it wasn't cheap back in the day. The other was Project Nebula. When I first got it, my CoCo, one was still 4K, so it flickered, but the 3D effect was amazing. I had played Night Driver in the arcade in the Atari version, and was impressed by the 3D effects here. But this was amazing at the time. It ran in color, added flags that the player had to steer through. And the most amazing of it all was added hills with proper perspective. There's so many firsts in this game. First proper 3D perspective CoCo game. First 3D game with realistic hills on any home computer or arcade machine that I know of. First CoCo game with speech done in software. One of the first games that got visible improvement when you upgraded to 16K. Finally, a reason to upgrade. So there you go. Brent, any final thoughts on skiing?
I'll save that till the end of the show.
Thank you for holding up. I was getting a drink there. So, everyone loves skiing, but you know what else everyone loves? That lovable, wacky character, Horace. Brent, have you played any Horace games before this week?
I've played Horace games on these shows, yes.
Oh, that's right. You did pick one. Do you recall which one it was?
They all kind of blend together.
Well, luckily I've got names with all the major ones here. Horace is a character that started off as a Pac-Man clone. In fact, Horace is a clone. That's what Horace does. I'd love to see Horace and Cuthbert go at it someday on the CoCo or Dragon. Again, Hungry Horace was the first game. Then, of course, the game we're going to talk about this week, Horace Goes Skiing. Horace went on to appear in Horace and the Spiders, Horace to the Rescue, and Horace in the Mystic Woods. He's like James Bond. He just keeps coming around. Don't screw with Horace, because if you'll recall a few years ago, the people that own the trademark on Horace are very, very predatory. Yeah. They don't take kindly to that, so we won't be doing anything wacky with Horace. We're just going to talk about him and his game, and its game is called Horace Goes Skiing. You wouldn't know that from when you started the game, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, this was originally developed on the ZX Spectrum, the beloved ZX Spectrum that we know and love, and made its way to the CoCo a few years later at 83, 84-ish. It really made its way to the Dragon 32, and then it made its way here too due to the compatibility. So really, this was never, as far as I can tell, this was never formally released on the platform, but it's a Dragon game. We play a lot of Dragon games. This requires pretty much any CoCo with 32K RAM. This was developed for the Dragon by Scion Software. The developer is listed as D Genes. D is D period Genes. The published by Beam Software Limited, and is a I don't know how many of the Horace games appeared on the CoCo, but this is the one I know about. There may be other ones. So, what is Horace, Brent? You want to talk about?
Actually, I don't know what Horace is.
Let me rephrase the question. What is Horace Goes Skiing, Brent? Because when it starts out, it doesn't look like you're going skiing.
Yeah, this is an odd game that I guess they thought Horace just skiing down a slope wasn't enough of a game. We've got to add something else in there. So you add in the ski rental part of the skiing experience. Unfortunately, I guess Horace didn't want to pay for parking, so he's parked on the other side of the interstate and has to cross the road Frogger style to get his skis and then go back to the slopes.
Now you're gonna laugh at me before you can, because I want to get this in since we're right in the middle of it here. I actually dug up, believe it or not, the cartridge, the cassette inlay for this.
Okay.
And there is some mention of what's going on here.
Okay.
If you'll allow me. So, at the beginning of the game, Horace has 40 pounds to spend.
Yes.
If he's knocked down, it costs him 10 pounds in ambulance fees. Okay, just bear that in mind.
Bring back those days.
No kidding. Man, I'd take an ambulance everywhere. After Horace has successfully crossed the road in the first part, and you got him to where you get the skis, the charge for the skis is $10. So a lot of this is about how much money Horace brought with him. And then Horace accumulates points on the road. He doesn't want to linger because he wants to get to the ski slope. But that's the second part of the game. Now you've got the skis, you go skiing. So in the second part of the game, Horace must ski down the Hanacon Run, which I guess, I don't know if that's real, surely not, avoiding the trees and slaloming between the magenta and cyan pairs of flags. If Horace fails to pass between the flags, a warning note is sounded, and Horace will lose points. Horace increases his points by passing between the flags. He receives 100 points for each flag. If Horace should hit a tree, he can continue down the slope, but as long as his skis don't break. If his skis break, then Horace must again go back and get more skis. Hey, Horace wants to ski. If Horace successfully completes the course with the skis intact, then he can go. He can use his skis on the next slope. Horace can obtain more money by accumulating points. There is a 10-pound bonus for every 1,000 point boundary. So there you go. That's how the game works, money-wise.
Money is life.
That's why on the screen you're going to see at the top there's a money listing, because I was baffled at this game. I'll be honest with you when I first started. So now get into it.
So after he gets his skis, you go down the slope, and this is more of your traditional ski style game where you're looking from a bird's eye perspective at the slope, and you are traveling straight down the screen. You can go left and right to hit your slalom flags, and while you're always basically forced to go down, you have pretty good control over if you're turning left or right. It's pretty instant. The issue here is...
Yeah, I want to hear this. The issue is pretty valid.
The issue here is whoever set up this slalom course apparently hates skiers, because the slalom course will take you into trees.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like, oh, that was a close shot. I mean like if you make the gate, you have hit a tree.
Yeah, they'll have multiple trees blocking it.
And that's unfortunate because, I mean, it makes the game, it loses so much because of that. If you wanted to play a game that was actually skiing, where you get to go down and you get your slalom flags and you get your points and you don't want to miss any gates,
yeah,
you can't do that.
We just talked about that game. It wasn't this.
And that takes something away. And I'm guessing, from what I can understand, I'm guessing the course is somewhat randomly generated.
I hope no one actually intentionally generated that course.
But because of that, it takes away from the experience. When a game says you have to do this and then physically stops you from being able to do that, it's not like overcoming a challenge. It's like a glitch in the game that takes me out of the experience personally. Also, the car part where you're crossing the road to get to rent your skis, you can't.
That's so stupid. The whole concept of this level is ridiculous.
You can't stop moving. You're always moving, and it feels really weird.
I wonder if that's because I played this with the actual CoCo, and
You think it's an analog
I'm pretty
thing?
sure what you were experiencing was an analog
But that
thing,
doesn't make any sense because it doesn't use analog.
Everything's analog.
Well,
Everything.
I know, but it doesn't actually use the analog part of the analog.
Well, on the downhill, everything, you're always moving anyway.
Right.
So, but I mean, listen, let's get back to the car part for a minute, okay? Clearly, whoever designed the skiing part also designed the car part, because one thing that makes Frogger fun is there's a pattern to the cars where you've got a chance. In this, cars just randomly careen around, change lanes. I mean, it's insane. Cars randomly just hit each other in the back and just go around. I mean, it's madness. This is 10 times harder than Frogger, this level, to get across these streets. And you really sort of have to just commit yourself and pray when you go across.
I mean, you're not wrong. Each car has a speed it wants to go. And then if it can't do that because there's a car in front of it or whatever, it would just run into the back of it, try to go around it.
It is much more like real traffic than Frogger, where everyone stays in their lane uniformly. In this game, it's like going down the interstate, and like everyone's in a hurry to get home.
If there's a wall of slower cars that blocks everything behind it, that's really your best time to go. There's two problems with this. Problem one, this isn't skiing.
And it starts the game.
Problem two, to get past this reliably, you have to basically wait until there are enough slow cars to stop the fast cars. Because while you can get past the slow cars in time to move in front of them and get across, some of the cars you can't do that for. They're too fast. You can't not be passing them and be passing them before they hit you. So you basically it's delayed gratification, I guess, but then the skiing part's not that great either.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like delayed disappointment. And that's not to say this game isn't fun. This is fine. It's fine if you just want to screw around with the horse character, or you want to be in this ridiculous world where the traffic is crazy and the slalom course is stupid. If you're just gonna play it for a few times, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with a game being silly. And I'm guessing that this is what this is a game trying to be silly. If they were trying to be serious and came up with this, then I don't even want to talk about it. But it does take away from the experience. And for me, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
This is a game that I never had when we had our CoCo. I don't remember ever playing this. Do you?
No, I haven't played this before.
And so I was interested to play it because I'd see pictures of it. And the funny thing is, Horace Goes Skiing is sort of this weird seminal title. When I was looking for this on eBay, I saw tons of the graphic of Horace on the skis is like legendary apparently amongst a certain set. T-shirts, mouse pads, posters, every sort of crazy thing involving Horace is sort of this weird legendary character in his own right in a weird way.
Sure.
The legend's probably slowly dying as the people, it was odd to me. But when playing the game, I could listen. The road part, it's a wintry road. The graphics are okay. I like Frogger a ton. I love it. But there are way better Froggers on the CoCo.
Well, I don't even compare this to Frogger.
That
you're
first
crossing
part,
the road.
The first part's Frogger.
No, but you're crossing the road, yes. But literally, that's the only two comparisons.
Right, but I'm just saying, they're ripping off Frogger, but it's insane. I will say it's different.
I don't think they're ripping off Frogger at all.
What?
Because in Frogger, you move in a grid. You don't move in a grid here, and the cars don't travel in a grid. It's a completely different experience.
Let me phrase it another way. They're poorly ripping off Frogger.
No,
they're doing a bad job because Frogger was a playable game where you cross traffic. This is not. This is a random game.
No, I think this was just a funny bit that they added into the beginning of the game because I thought it would be funny if you had to go get your
funny bit doesn't take most of your men, is my point.
Well, I mean, I didn't struggle with it that bad.
I did, because it's hard. And then once you get to the second round, good Lord.
Well,
it's even more insane.
Like I said before, the traffic, you can get past it every time without dying. You just have to sit there for 10 minutes.
Which part of this game is more fun for you, the skiing or the traffic? See, the fact that you've got to think about it that sums up the game.
I mean,
which one's the least painful to play? How about that?
Well, the problem with the traffic is it's a whole lot of setting there. If it wasn't a whole lot of setting there, I would have as much fun with the traffic as I do the skiing. The problem with the skiing, like I said before, it's impossible to get all of the slalom flags.
If the skiing wasn't randomly generated, it would have been something. You have something.
It would have been
great.
Better if there were courses.
Because there's little, like, what do they call them, moguls or whatever you jump on, the little mounds.
Yeah, but they don't actually
Well, I mean, it makes a noise.
Anything. Yeah.
But I'm saying there's something there. It's just not much. So it's basically, this game is like two sort of games that aren't that good.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't press them together and get a full game.
But they're two sort of games in a bag, basically. They're low end. The graphics are okay, and there is some comedic pleasure that.
Yes.
I wish the ambulance would have came out for the 10 pounds.
Yes.
That would have been funnier.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing this for the laughs, absolutely. Because I definitely laughed at this far more than I laughed at the other skiing game.
And I mean, if you think about Horace as a character, he's just a weird. I don't know what you would call the way he looks.
Yes.
He reminds me of, remember the big red monster in this Bugs Bunny cartoon?
Yes.
He sort of reminds me of that guy. But the fact that he came from a clone of a Pac-Man game to appear in other games, just that is sort of endearing because he's like the lowest end goof. He appears, he's like a low end guy. I like the idea of a guy that just shows up in clones. Like a low end, like, you got Mario. Maybe you've got Schlubbio. He comes around,
You know how when you go to the Xerox machine and you hit copy so many times that it starts degrading in quality?
That's how they created Horace.
Horace is about copy.
Please don't sue us.
Horace is about copy 530,000.
But I mean, as someone who likes crappy games, this game itches that scratch. And the fact that there's a recurring mascot in it seals the deal. And of course, I looked for this on eBay as well, so we'll get to that in a minute. So I'm kind of like we're kind of on the same page on this one when it comes to that one. We did get a couple brave souls that actually tried to play this game, and I think the majority of the fans of this were on the ZX. But they could, you never know. Pajako calls this review, Horace Tries to Go Skiing. It is up the annals of retro game history because for the most people, this was one of their very first games they played and owned. So it was often viewed through some very rose-tinted glasses. But Horace Goes Skiing really isn't that great a game. I will give it some slack as this came out when a lot of folks were just finding their feet with game programming. And for its time, comparatively, it was a good game. Unfortunately, the CoCo Dragon version feels like a quick cash grab with no real attention given to making the game as good as it could be. So for me, at least, it sits at the bottom of the pile, below the C64 port, with the specky version on top. The CoCo version has too many vehicles in the road, most of the time, and easily been called Horace waits impatiently at the side of the road. But if you are fortunate enough to get a gap in the traffic and actually go skiing, as the title suggests, a whole new level of fresh heck awaits. While the game is pretty smooth, the level generator is no bueno.
Yeah, it's bad.
With flags and moguls and trees, it all culminates in a fairly unplayable mess that ends up being just disappointing because a few tweaks would have made this a very solid port. Stick to the specky version and avoid the CoCo port like it's a tree on a ski run. 4 out of 10. L. Curtis Boyle also had something to say about this one. Like a lot of UK titles on any platform, it was harder than it needed to be. Boy, that's an understatement. Both the Frogger-styled level and the skiing level. Did you already called that, by the way? The Frogger-styled level. I want you to sink that in. On the other hand, it had good sound effects, and you were essentially getting 2 arcade games for the price of 1.
Yeah, you hear what he said right there? 2 games for the price of 1.
Which made it a great value, but Curtis, and one could get better if they played it long enough. I agree with the others. The CoCo Dragon version is not the best play-wise, but the intro is much better, especially the sound and music. It does have a score. The fact that one cannot stop moving on the Frogger style was a bit infuriating. Okay, a lot, and it doesn't make much sense. So that explains that part of it. I guess it's not the analog. One has to cross a super busy highway to the ski shop to pick up the skis, then cross back the other way to get to the ski hill. Rather dumb design for the ski resort, I must say. That doesn't make sense, really, but that goes without saying. In Frogger, you cross in one direction only. You can stop and pause to wait for traffic. In Horace Goes Skiing, you can only control the direction. You are always running. Once one manages to get back with the skis, the skiing part starts, which is a little easier, but still quite difficult. One has to steer between the flags, avoiding trees, and hit the moguls for extra points, all done from a vertically scrolling hillside. The flag tree places are sometimes utterly impossible, and I think it's much more random and placed than the Spectrum version. A plus, this is one of the few games the pastel color set actually works with. See the CoCo's Pooyan for example of how it does not work. Not a bad game, not a great game either. The difficulty is my main beef with it. But since you're getting 2 games for one price, I will give it a 6 out of 10. He keeps beating that home. That's not a plus, Curtis. These are 2 bad games. Horrible, horrible games. Believe it or not, I want to mention this before I forget it. I looked these up on the eBay. So skiing, you can get in the box, such as it is. It's that old Tandy box. I saw someone sell it for $34. I bet you get it cheaper.
Yeah.
I saw loose carts selling all day long for 10 buckaroos. On the Horace front, I saw no Horace Goes Skiing for the Dragon available, none. And none had been sold. If you're interested in picking this up for the Specky, you can get the tapes for this thing, $11, $4, $5. They're giving them away, brother. Of course, you have to have them sent over. I think we actually own this on the Specky somewhere in this room. It might be built on the wall. So, now that we've played both these games, the BRENT, which game did you prefer?
Skiing.
You don't want to have a little time to consider what the next game is going to be?
No, Horace is fun to laugh at and go, ha, look at Horace, he got hit by a car. But that's literally it. For a long time enjoyment, it's 100% going to be skiing every time.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say that you're wrong here on that one because it really was a dud-a-roo. There's no doubt about it.
Horace Goes Skiing is fine. It's fine, just it's not good.
Fair enough. So those 2 Christmas adjacent games that I put to bed. Please try skiing if you haven't. It's snow. It's snow. It's all about snow.
Well, yeah, we get snow in winter, but other countries have snow all the time.
Don't pull the curtain back on the holiday show by saying that. Listen, I just put this sitting on the Amiga holiday show, so don't try to tell me that this isn't holiday related. Not with that hair.
Skiing has as much to do with Christmas as Horace Goes Skiing has to do with Frogger.
When we join you next month on the CoCo show, so get this, Brent. Just in, hot off the wires, I'm looking at what the next game we're going to be playing on here. And I got to tell you, this is one I've never heard of, but I like the name. When we re-meet in the new year, we'll be playing the game, Get Me Out of Here. Get me out of here.
I've been thinking that for a couple hours.
I hope that's a game, not a plea from the selection committee. But that's what we're going to be playing. Now, next week, in fact, as we film this, it's the 22nd of December, just in time for Christmas, Brent. This is the last of the Christmas shows we've got this year. But next week, a very special final year show. It's the only show every year where me and the Brent and Boat all get together as one unit. I mean, that's not a charity event or something. And we all get together for our special year-end review. It'll be out right before the new year, where us 3 will be talking about all the games we played on all the different shows, the lofty highs and the down lows, and everything in the middle, including how the games fared, how the popularity they were, the people's choices for the games. It should be a lot of fun. It'll be the 2024 Year-End Spectacular. That'll be coming up next week, just about a week from as we film this one, just in time for New Year's Eve. It'll be out the door, so that should be a lot of fun. It's always a good time to get back with the boat. I also want to mention that coming up just in a few short weeks, January 18th, 2024, Brent, it's Amigathon 2025. I said 2024, it's 2025. Amigathon 2025, January 18th, 8 to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're going to be filming this sucker live over at Boat's basement, just like the old days, Brent. And we're going to be playing 12 hours of Amiga games to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network, for the kids. Boat tells me that since we started doing the charity event, Amigathon, we've raised over $30,000.
Yeah,
and when I say
money.
I mostly mean you, who have are happy listeners and viewers who have taken their time to dip in your pocketbooks and toss a few bucks to the kids. And we would love for you to join us. Whether you contribute or not is fine. If you just show up and support us, that's great. Spread the word. Whatever you can do to make this event a success, we would appreciate it. Again, that's January 18th, 2025, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brent, any final thoughts this week? Any lasting Christmas or holiday greetings that you want to live out before we take it to the house?
Nope.
I will just say, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And we'll see you next week for the year-end review. Adios, everybody.